ESG, Scope 3, and Sustainable Supply Chain Compliance. How to measure supplier Scope 3 emissions. Sustainability reporting is no longer optional. For most companies, the biggest source of emissions is not their own operations. It's their supply chain. Scope 3 emissions often account for more than 70% of a company's total carbon footprint. Yet they are also the hardest to measure, verify, and manage. This is why Scope 3 measurement has become one of the most important challenges in ESG and supply chain compliance today. What Scope 3 emissions actually are. Scope 3 emissions include all indirect emissions that occur across the value chain. This covers purchased goods and services, transportation, warehousing, business travel, capital goods, waste, and even the use of sold products. Unlike Scope 1 and Scope 2, which are relatively easy to measure, Scope 3 depends heavily on supplier data, estimates, and industry benchmarks. That's what makes it complex, but also where the biggest impact can be made. Why measuring supplier emissions matters. Regulators, investors, and customers increasingly expect transparency on supply chain emissions. Frameworks like the GHG Protocol, CSRD, and ISSB now push companies to disclose Scope 3 data. Large enterprises are also flowing these requirements down to suppliers. If suppliers cannot report emissions accurately, they risk losing contracts, failing audits, or being excluded from preferred supplier programs. Step 1. Map your supply chain. The first step in measuring Scope 3 emissions is visibility. Start by mapping your suppliers by category, region, and spend. Not every supplier carries the same carbon impact, so prioritization is critical. High-spend categories, energy-intensive materials, logistics providers, and contract manufacturers usually represent the largest emission sources. This is where most companies focus first. Step 2. Choose the right measurement method. There are 3 common approaches to calculating Scope 3 emissions. The first is spend-based estimation. This uses financial data and emission factors to estimate carbon impact. It's fast and useful for early-stage reporting, but not highly accurate. The second is activity-based measurement. This uses real operational data such as fuel usage, production volumes, or transport distance. It provides much better accuracy. The third is supplier-specific data. This is the most accurate method and involves collecting emissions data directly from suppliers, ideally verified through ESG platforms or audits. Most organizations start with spend-based data and gradually transition to supplier-specific reporting over time. Step 3. Collect supplier data effectively. Supplier engagement is critical. Instead of asking for complex carbon models, provide structured questionnaires or digital reporting tools. Ask for emissions by product, facility, or service line where possible. Many companies now use ESG platforms that automate data collection, validate submissions, and flag inconsistencies. Clear communication is essential. Suppliers need to understand why the data is required and how it will be used. Step 4. Build a supplier emissions baseline. Once data is collected, the next step is building a baseline. This baseline shows current emissions by supplier, category, and region. It becomes the reference point for future reduction targets and compliance reporting. At this stage, companies often discover that a small number of suppliers account for the majority of emissions. This insight allows sustainability efforts to focus where they matter most. Step 5. Create a supplier risk and emissions heatmap. A supplier heatmap combines emissions data with risk factors. Suppliers are plotted based on emission intensity, data quality, regulatory exposure, business criticality. High emission, high risk suppliers become priority targets for engagement, audits, or improvement programs. This approach allows sustainability teams to move from reporting to action. Step 6. Reduce and track over time. Measuring emissions is only the beginning. Leading organizations work with suppliers to improve energy efficiency, shift to renewable energy, redesign packaging and logistics, adopt lower carbon materials, improve manufacturing efficiency. Progress is tracked year over year, with emissions data linked to supplier scorecards and performance reviews. This turns ESG from a reporting exercise into a continuous improvement process. Why this matters for the future. Scope 3 reporting is rapidly becoming a commercial requirement, not just a sustainability goal. Companies that fail to measure and manage supplier emissions risk regulatory penalties, reputational damage, and loss of business. Those that get it right gain transparency, resilience, and a competitive advantage in low-carbon supply chains. Closing. Measuring Scope 3 emissions is complex, but it's also one of the most powerful levers organizations have to reduce their environmental impact. With the right data, the right tools, and strong supplier collaboration, sustainable supply chains become measurable, manageable, and scalable. And in the years ahead, that capability will separate compliant companies from truly resilient ones. Please subscribe and like to download Scope 3 Supplier Data Checklist and stay ahead in the curve. Comment if you want any particular topic to be covered.